I greet you folks one more time. Welcome to this forum, Homo Politicus, which is your friendly octopus, claws at almost anything that tends to raise the national adrenaline. Today, come with me. Former president drops a massive political howler. Olusegun Obasanjo says many Nigerian leaders should be in jail. Now, not one to shy away from the limelight or stirring a controversy, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has questioned the character of Nigeria's leaders, saying those who occupy public offices should be behind bars. The former country head dropped this howler on Friday when he hosted 6 members of the House of Representatives, that is, who visited him in his Abeokuta home. The 6, led by a former chairman House Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector, Ugo Chinyere, also are co-sponsors of the bill on a single 6-year term and rotation between the North and South. Obasanjo, who chided succeeding governments for not building on the foundation laid by him, said this. Hear him. Let me quote him. So the very beginning is ourselves. Yes, we have to rethink our democracy, but the character of people in government must change. With all due respect, he continued, most of those in government should right now be behind bars or in gallows. Well, I have a last line. When you are accustomed to privilege, equity and equality feel like oppression. So what do they say about those coming to equity? They must do so with very clean hands. Let's quickly meet and greet my discussants this morning. In no particular order, let's meet and greet the genial Cyril Abaku. Cyril is the broadcaster and communications expert. Cyril, we feel happy to welcome you one more time.
Thank you, Citizen.
Okay. Cyril is joined by the ebullient Emeka Madonagu, journalist, political commentator. Emeka, welcome.
Thank you, Citizen. Hello, viewers.
Okay. Sometimes at a time like this, gentlemen, you are torn between asking which is more important, the messenger or the message. Do we get the message in the first place? Do we?
Well, the point is, for someone to qualify as a messenger, he must actually have a message, and he must also believe in the message he's passing across. Too often, we have people who bear messages that they can't even explain, messages they can't even articulate. So they're actually lucky that we have a largely undiscerning media in Nigeria that doesn't really ask the real questions. Yeah, as a journalist, I look at certain stories, I read certain interviews, and I see certain things.
Many of our journalists are afraid of follow-up questions, if you see what I mean.
The bigger tragedy is that do they even know what follow-up questions are? Because if you don't have the context, if you don't have the antecedent, if you don't know the history, how will you connect anything from the past to the present? Because for Obasanjo to have said this, makes it look as if he has been outside of power, all his life. Obasanjo is one man. Himself and Muhammadu Buhari have become the only 2 men in Nigeria out of 200 million Nigerians that had the opportunity to rule Nigeria twice.
They had second chances.
Second
golden chances.
And they came at very important periods where people expected them to make a difference, but flatly failed.
Mess the table up?
And actually paved the way for the characters they say should be in jail to instead be in power.
Cyril, and so you are wondering if this was a message for this messed age.
Well, yes, indeed it is. The mere fact that lawmakers seeking to push a bill on the floor of the National Assembly will make a detour to the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library. I don't know how many votes President Obasanjo, former president, can cast, in Abuja. How many persons he can convince to cast their vote in favor of the bill. I want to believe that the so-called 6-year single term for the president, which is what the 6 lawmakers are pushing for, would have been more easily achieved if they took the time to lobby their own colleagues. If you see what I mean, lobby them, persuade them, push it through. But they didn't do that. They had to leave Abuja and fly all the way to Abeokuta to lobby a president who left office in 2007. And since then, we've had former President Yaradua, former President Jonathan, former President Buhari,
and now Tinubu.
It appears that there's something enigmatic about Obasanjo that makes them keep going. And I'm glad the way you opened the conversation, saying, should it be Obasanjo's message or the messenger? I'm not very sure that there are still very many journalists left in the mainstream media today that have the capacity in terms of the history, in terms of the antecedent, in terms of the knowledge to report Obasanjo. There are very few of them left. This is why even the story, when you read different platforms, some are even saying that he made that remark about African leaders, not just about Nigeria. And I'll come to that. But if you check the quote, he spoke extensively. It was good that he said at the beginning, he said that the single tenure is not even the issue. If you recall, the Patriots, when they were first established in 2003, Chief F.R. Williams, Richard Akinjide, the former Minister of Health, Oliko Edason and Co., the Patriots all came together to say that Nigeria should adopt a single 5-year tenure. I remember them making that, so...
Because to them, at the time,
yes,
5 years were enough for any right thinking, to right wrongs or to fix the...
And that single 5-year tenure sits with a number of so-called progressive ideas that have been flown from time to time. State police, 5 or single tenure for the president to go between north and south. Then they talk about part-time lawmakers at the federal level, maybe a single house of parliament. These ideas have been around for a long time.
And we keep kicking them down the road.
Like they say, just keep kicking the can down the road. But the question nobody has asked is, now that this idea has come up again, these young men have to take this whole thing to I'm sorry, when I mean young men, using the term loosely and relatively, to alter. My first concern and question is, Obasanjo saying that a lot of the leaders we have in the country today ought to be in jail, because for him, the primary question is attitude, not constitution. But I wanted to ask, if we look at Obasanjo's own track record from 1976 to 1979, and from 1999 to 2007, he is one president who may have a lot of questions to answer, frankly speaking. So I read everything he said, and I was wondering, was he speaking about himself or is he speaking about about others? Because everything he was saying,
is it possible Nemesis is knocking on somebody's door?
Yeah, but this Nemesis I'm seeing can only go so far, because he's only talking. You know what I mean? He's just saying. But I mean, the president and former President Obasanjo, that's talking about Tinubu and Obasanjo, never saw eye to eye for a long time because of the history. But you would imagine the fact that even both men seem to have reached a détente. Yes, because the president, who is a Christian president, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, a Christian, visited a meeting with a pastor in the New Christian Church of God to pay her Salah visit, wearing the Tinubu broken chains cap, which means that he too may have switched. So I mean, it's only Nigeria really that those who should be in prison or those who should be answering for their actions in years past will be the ones pontificating and telling us where to go.
Emeka, so sometimes Again, you are torn between looking at what's on the table, and you are wondering who constructed the table. But away from that, Obasanjo seems to be asking that the cat be belled. Do we have a cat? And for that matter, is there a bell?
Oh, yes. So we have not just a cat, but cats. Fat cats. Fat cats. So feeding fat on the treasure.
Distended bellies.
And these cats have bells, big bells on their necks, ringing everywhere. The stench of their pillaging is everywhere. The stench, the noise.
Yeah, but Emeka, the tollings seem to be deafening.
But they can't hear the sound.
Okay.
They are carrying the bells on their necks, but they can't hear. The others can't hear. All over the world.
They alone can't hear.
They alone can't hear. And that includes Obasanjo himself. Because Obasanjo actually should be a statesman. If he's saying that, okay, let's even play the devil's advocate, that fine, people, of a certain character should be in jail. But he has been in jail. He's been out of jail. From jail to power. Will he say that if any of such people had gone through jail, that the kind of mindset he had in power as a civilian president is what they should possess? Should they have traveled that? Should they travel that same road? The answer is no.
Emeka, consider this. He chided succeeding governments for not building on the foundations laid by him.
He keeps saying this thing. I bought so and so number of ships as military head of state. I bought so and so number of aircraft.
With his money?
Nigeria Airways. Well, you trust the average Nigerian leader or politician or ex-leader to talk as if he or she controls.
Doing us a good.
Yeah, doing us instead of just living out his term. So now we look at it that Obasanjo had a big opportunity to have turned things around, but
based on where he's coming from.
Yes,
where he was coming from.
One thing I think Obasanjo has is this this bloated sense of self. If he didn't have that, Obasanjo would be a fantastic.
And it reminds me of the saying that the first victory is that over self.
Yes. Obasanjo is
ultimate victory.
Obasanjo is one man. He's an international statesman, an international figure. He means well, but too often he allows himself, his sense of self-esteem to get in the way of the noble ideas he espouses.
Yeah.
And that is where people like me lose him, in the plot. Because
he loses you.
Well, either way, because Obasanjo, look at it. The things he talks about, he had the opportunity to have turned so many things around. The people he's talking about that should be in jail, he had the opportunity to have prevented them from even getting...
Emeka, I underscore that.
Yes.
Because Emeka and former minister, the lady, what's her name now? Education minister. Yeah. They were foundation members of Transparency International.
Yes.
Which means he was at the advantage position to look at the table messed up. And he had the wherewithal to clean the table.
Obasanjo had a fantastic team. They brought the Bureau of Public Procurement, which would have cleaned up a lot of the things we see, messy things.
Sleazy things.
He had the Bureau of Public Enterprises, which should have ensured that we had a transparent sale of public assets. But what happened? So many other things, look at the telecom sector. He could have really moved, not just giving us GSM, he could have transitioned it to a point that, that the reforms would have led to like 20 years, continuous changes.
GSM came and annihilated the P&T and Nitel,
and which shouldn't have been,
which was a national asset.
Yes, and which is what we've been saying about NNPC. On time, transform NNPC into a fully limited liability company. Do it on time, because a government will come in future that might just say, okay, fine, food regulation, private sector players, play. Maybe we have railway everywhere. Maybe we have, some means of transportation that people don't really even need to bother about, petrol, PMS, diesel, and all of that. And then NNPC will just die like Nitel, die like Nigerian Airways. But we've been saying it for some years. Privatize NNPC fully, so that government doesn't keep losing assets. Because as it is, the only thing government has in Nigeria is just that power.
All right.
Government doesn't have that influence. If not, this back and forth between Dangote and NNPC, wouldn't be.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, because let me tell you something. You see, if Dangote were to organize the business fully, he can tell NNPC, keep your crude, import crude from elsewhere, crash the prices of all those products, and NNPC will just go and drink your crude. But what we are saying is this: we must not run affairs in such a way that government loses both the power and the influence
in essence,
to decide anything.
Obasanjo's claim to having laid a foundation which leaders succeeding him have failed to build upon is baseless.
No. He did. He laid foundation here and there. But the problem is not the foundation. The problem is when you are laying a foundation, is it a bungalow foundation and then you expect a skyscraper from it? Or will you lay a foundation for a 50-story building and then you just get to the lintel level and you roof it? That will be wasted investment either way. So whatever foundation you laid, that's why leaders must have a long-term vision. Whatever we're doing now should not be for political expediency, just to please some friends or associates, but it should be for the long term.
Okay. Cyril, when Obasanjo says, yes, we have to rethink our democracy, do you seem to understand what he means?
I frankly don't. Mr. Obasanjo has made, in fact, we need to go back and thoroughly research Obasanjo and come up with a long list of all the recommendations he has ever made in and out of government. Because in the 70s, he came and said that under apartheid, that the South Africans were wasting time, they should use the African chance and juju to push out their white oppressors. You can imagine that. Then, he
talked about Afrocracy, whatever that means.
Afro-democracy.
Afro-democracy, yeah.
He brought that up.
Yeah.
I mean, very few books. He has written copiously. He has written several books. My Command was one of his books.
Not My Will.
My Watch.
My Watch, okay.
Yes, My Watch. Then he also wrote Emeka. No, not Emeka. Chukwuma. Yes, the biography of Nzogu.
Yeah.
Who was very close friends with him. He has written so many books. My Command is
Can you swear they would have been friends by today's
well, who knows?
Antecedents
Who knows?
of the band?
Because Nigeria largely
because I get the impression also from what we have read elsewhere that Chukwuma Nzogu was a straightforward gentleman.
Yes,
couldn't stand for this shenanigans.
This version of Obasanjo I have seen today. I also don't think.
As a matter of fact, I've heard, Emeka, I'm sure you have done. I've heard it said that if Chukwuma Nzogu had made Obasanjo privy to the coup, it could have been messed up.
Well, it's not impossible.
Because from account, they slept on the same bed.
Yes.
The night exercise, what do they call it? Yeah.
No, in fact, the day before.
The day before.
Yeah, the day before, there was an incident in which either of both men, Obasanjo had returned from a course
from India,
and needed some money to buy his dinner or something, and he approached Emeka and said, Emeka was holding the meeting.
Chukwuma.
Not when there was the coup meeting. So Chukwuma took out his wallet and flung it at Obasanjo. With the man like saying, don't disturb. So he did it was because of that meeting the whole day, he flung it at him. So Obasanjo said he didn't decode what
Flinging the purse is a message.
was a message. And today Obasanjo is flinging messages everywhere.
In like manner.
In like manner. My
This is a paradox.
if we had a catalog of all the things Obasanjo has said, right, then we ask him, you had cumulatively you had 8 plus 3 is 11. In 11 years, what could you do for Nigeria?
Yeah.
It was so much.
That was a lot.
In fact, his second coming, some of the acts by him seem to turn a lot of backs at him. Because I cannot forget a former governor of Anambra State was made captive by others from him. Is that the democracy is having?
What about General Adebayo, respected statesman whose residence was country home, was barricaded by soldiers and other instances? To me, you see, I think
not just Ekiti, Plateau State, because Adebayo filled in when the governor of Ekiti then had to be removed, if you remember.
Look at Plateau, look at Ekiti, you know.
Even though was he Ogun? We are to okay, no, that was Ekiti.
Ekiti,
so I think really
Joshua Dari
was Plateau. Yeah. I think really I'll put it down to the fact that we don't have a virile intellectual culture in Nigeria. We keep going
any more than we
keep going in, the fault lies with all of us. We keep going back to the same people who have been used, tired, used. We are not looking for new ideas. So that's why you will see some people saying, okay, whether we should bring back the chieftaincy style, or whether we should go old ideas. That we need new ideas. Autocracy can no longer work. Military rule is no longer fashionable. The rule of strong men is no longer fashionable. A country that has had independence, what was our population? But today, at that time,
about 55 million.
Yes, subsistence farming could take care of the population. But today we're under 200 million, and people are saying that everybody should go back to the farm. Everybody should. We are still talking of subsistence farming in the 21st century. Long time ago. So you will go to work with your suit and tie, come back, remove it, and go for how do you stretch yourself far and between? So if all of us are on the farm, who is going to buy those products?
Okay.
Who is going to invest in the business? Instead of us talking of commercial farming, agro processing, soilless farming, things that the rest of the world, aquaponics, things that the rest of the world is talking about.
Especially now that we are talking about biodiversity.
Yeah, so, I understand one country is actually growing rice in the desert. So the world is talking about new ideas. Let's leave all these men, whether it's Anyoko or Obasanjo, these men have tried. Let's thank them. It is now the challenge for the youths. The youths, they keep, politicians keep employing to do. Let the youth step up to the plate and start bringing up new ideas.
I hear we must begin to plod our ways back home. Cyril, in doing so, aren't you scandalized that the seeming now generation of lawmakers are having to return to this man?
I don't understand. And frankly, Obasanjo, what is really his generation? Is it 1970? Is it 1970?
He was born in the 30s.
Is it the 2000s? Where does he really belong in the scheme of things? The fact that we're not making global heroes on our own land is part of the problem.
We're in search of heroes.
Yes, of course
and
we
heroines.
are. These men, why aren't they bold all by themselves? Why are they not able to simply present the bill and then push it through? Why go back to Obasanjo? Like he was saying, the patriots were with the president over the weekend. It is understandable why Chief Emeka Anyonko had to lead the delegation. Okay? But with due respect, look at Anyonko and look at the rest of the delegation. It means if you took him out of that team, it looked almost as if
the relevance would have been gone.
Of course, it would have been gone. The man still had to push the headline, even Obasanjo, in a manner of speaking, if you look at him. So the problem is that we are not able to look. Then we were celebrating heroes from many years ago.
From the past.
Soyinka, Achebe, and so on. But in our own generation, how many Nigerian scholars of repute do you have?
No. But the reference to the great minds like the late Professor Achebe is not misplaced. My argument always is, if an Achebe could have written a monster book
at 28,
at 28, and without the enhancement.
Yes, but and no, it was written in one action.
Yes,
it was in one writing. He didn't write and write. It was one time writing.
So would you say the age of creativity is gone
in Nigeria? Well, the Achebes of the Achebes of today are not writing those books in Nigeria today. They are mostly in American universities where they are teaching and writing. So you may not even get to know their books. How many of them are living in Nigeria today? How many of them? That's the problem. The Soyinka and Co could stay here, produce, and then win the Nobel Prize.
So neither you nor Emeka will be surprised that at the last Olympics we saw medals won by Nigerian-born men and women for other countries.
But you know, the thing is this: the world has since moved away from the overweening influence of government, of politics, to a wider plane of the private sector.
Yes.
A lot of these athletes around the world are actually not being maintained by government.
Yes.
They're actually on one grant, or one endowment, or one private sector, or one university scholarship. You know, these things are programmed.
Emeka, but you, Cyril and I, lived in a country where in times past, a company like Mobile sponsored athletics.
Yes.
So aren't you surprised where we dropped the ball?
Consistently, we've had politics in sports, politics in everything. Meanwhile, the rest of the world has been moving away, talking about leaner government and more robust private sector involvement. Even China, that used to be a closed society, China is opening up more and more. And so, you know, we need to really, we need to really push the younger generation to step up to the plate, so that, you see, they don't have to depend on handouts from politicians.
Emeka, I'm pained too, just like you.
I'm not saying that the old people should be discarded. You use one word I love. You said reference, make reference to. Yes, we can make reference to them, but expecting for instance,
no reference. But do we need to defer to them?
Well, not necessary. Of course,
it is important, but it's not as if we expect them to think for us. It's not as if we expect them to think for us, because still going to a Soyinka at 90 to say you are not talking, you are not saying this, you are not. It's what else do you want the man to say?
Otherwise,
that has not been said.
We are not asking the relevant questions.
Yes, that's why I said there is a dearth of rigorous, intellectual rigor in the country. So people don't debate issues. What they just do is just emotional, emotional exchanges. But if you debate issues, you will go, for instance, like they did in the 60s. You will go and read 5 books. You read 5, I'll read 5. We'll come together and engage in serious debate, so that we'll come together, put ideas together. By the time we present it, what led to the African Writers Series on the Chamaka literature? Name all of those things. These things were just so that, what we have learned, what we know, what we, push out. We are not the only ones. Let's get more people.
So the age of creativity can still be explored.
All we don't need to do is use our brains.
Okay.
The people are there,
and think
the materials are there.
Box.
In fact, the box is not even existing.
They say when you are inside the box, it's either you don't think at all or you think differently.
Destroy the box. All of us, whether old or young, we we all belong to that intellectual, fraternity.
Because it will seem to
So,
me that these people are making just
in closing, in going back home, do you see the gallows doors and prison walls being opened?
open. It will not be open.
Okay.
You see, I think that for the leaders of Nigeria
For whom the bell tolls.
have since realized now that they need Obasanjo with every administration to do some image laundering for them. So they won't even dare touch him. Any Nigerian that are going to jail for corruption will happen maybe in another 20 years, but not now.
No, but for me,
I don't see it happening.
why do we need to? We've seen how much the EFCC, ICPC, SFU, every year they spend millions on prosecution and lose many cases. Why don't we even just work and make sure that the electoral process is strengthened so that such people, the kind of people Obasanjo is referring to, don't get there at all.
Emeka, the idea is not to humor you. If I take your mind back to the Alamesia days, when it was bandied about that the man disguised to evade the EFCC.
We don't need to continue with that. We've gone 25 years, a quarter of a century.
Under the same Obasanjo,
This same Obasanjo
a
still-
former Delta governor escaped the gallows here, but got nailed in Britain.
I remember when I was at one newspaper, a national newspaper, and we were thinking of, what we had to do about in terms of columnists. And people mentioned this and mentioned this. And I asked a question. Wait a minute. Why don't we actually look for people we can grow? People who can grow with this man.
Okay.
Write consistently. People will write consistently. And then people will now get used to their conviction, the courage of their conviction, so that with time, they will grow. And then they will grow with the newspaper, which is better for us. But if we keep referring to this old man,
So what did your paper do?
but eventually they bought into it.
Okay.
Because some of the people they actually said they reached out to, were asking for so much. But there were young writers who didn't even want anything. Just give me a space to express myself. And today, some of them have become superstars. They write so people love them so much.
Emeka, again, Cyril, I'm sorry I have to go back there. The games of the 33rd Olympiad just ended in Paris, and a lady, Tobi Amusha, held a lot of medal hopes before leaving home. But she went there and nothing happened.
She came back empty-handed.
We disappointed her.
Of course, sure we disappointed her. They won that even that got there and found out that they didn't register her to.
Ophili
Nigeria spent
qualified for the final
yes.
of the 200 meters.
Which means she could have made a good show in the 200
yes.
meters. Nigeria spent 9 billion naira to sponsor 88 athletes, and how many delegates went from the ministry? That's a matter of another day. 9 billion naira to waste.
The minister has asked for forgiveness.
He took Blessing
The sports minister.
usual.
Blessing but he took First Bank at the time to adopt her and sponsor her. She won the Diamond League in London. These stories are when Obikolo had a knee injury and had to go to Canada to treat himself.
What of Gloria
Gloria
Alonso?
that went to Spain. They told Francis Obikolo that he was lying, that he didn't have an injury. He had a doctor's report. The man went to Canada to get treated. After he said, Nigeria,
Good night.
I can tell you that if to the motion, because maybe she's already been a world champion. But if she went to Holland now,
But you know, the world was waiting for her.
It was. And I saw a national daily. If that was the sponsor story, tell me what the sponsor story is. Write that Favor of Philip from disappointment to Olympic history. I said, what was the history she made? She came 6th in the 200 meters.
Sometimes you shudder at the headlines you read. Sometimes.
Then they quoted the minister. I said, what kind of journalism is this?
All right, folks. I hear we must go. But Emeka, in 30 seconds, can you take it home?
Well, I got up early. I got up early this morning.
Bombshell.
I got up early this morning by around 3 a.m. And what was just on my mind was that challenge Nigerian youths. Throw the challenge at the challenge at them that Nigerian youths, It's time to step up to the plate and take the leadership. Show the stuff you are made of. If we keep referring to the older generation without learning from them and trying to move up, we won't go anywhere. We'll keep running around in circles. And if Obasanjo lives for the next 10, 20 years, we will still see Obasanjo dictating to dictating to the generation at that time.
Perhaps as the only cock that must crow.
Well, it is because other cocks have refused to crow.
And because we always take the playing field to his house to say, please crow.
That is it.
This is the problem.
Is it that the Ikenga Ogochinyere, for instance, who led them there, is it that he cannot on his own express his view? He represents a constituency.
It's one of self-image. How you see yourself.
That is it.
Self-image.
You have to see yourself, from the mirror.
To get validation from
a former leader. What about you? Build yourself. Your constituents elected you to go there and represent them, not to be going to Obasanjo to go to. They want to hear you speak. Nobody will hold your mouth. Speak.
All right, gentlemen, we must apply the brakes here, but not before thanking Cyril Abaku for your time.
Pleasure.
And Emeka Mondonogu
Thank you so much
for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm out of here, but the debate continues. Do you think Obasanjo, General Olusegun Obasanjo retired, is relevant in the scheme of things? I'm out of here. Bye-bye now. Take care. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.